My boss at Merrill Lynch told me that I had 30 days to return to the office or I would be fired. Now before this, I'd been working remotely for 2.5 years with absolutely no complaints, but my least favorite 3-letter acronym was just put in place. RTO. But despite that, I never went back in person, and not only did I continue working there for 1.5 years, but I also used their threat as leverage to get other remote offers. And I've systematically converted 4 companies from an in-person or hybrid to being fully remote. And not because I'm special, because I simply used a strategy in a book that came out almost 2 decades ago. And there's 5 main steps that build off of each other. But before I show you exactly how I did it, let me just say who this absolutely will not work for. First, you need to actually be good at your job to then be able to convert it to being remote. Second, if you need the in-office structure to stay productive, then this won't work for you. And third, if there is no precedent at your company for being remote, meaning if during the pandemic even, they didn't send workers home and allow them to work remotely, then this probably won't work. But if that's you and you fall into one of those buckets, the key will then be building remote skills that then you can sell to a future employer. The skills being, first off, hyper-organization. You track everything, particularly deadlines, because they're going to get scrutinized much more heavily. And for me, really, the key of that was building a second brain. And this houses everything, not just deadlines and spreadsheets for my job, but also every movie I've ever watched, books I've read, quotes, and things like that. Next is being good at hosting meetings. This is a super high leverage skill that gives you a lot of visibility without actually doing that much work. And particularly because people are so used to going to boring, unproductive meetings, if you can host a meeting that actually gets things done, moves the ball forward, people will be very appreciative. And then mastering proactive communication, meaning getting good at asking questions, particularly in the beginning, to make sure that your workload is clear, and then ensuring that you're alerting people of your progress before they ask, so then you can build predictability. And over time, you will build trust through this consistency of being predictable, and that's really one of the keys. And really, the final and most important skill is being comfortable alone. It sounds dumb, but you're going to need to be able to complete your workload without the help of anyone else. But basically, that's step 1 of turning a job to being remote, is to create physical separation from yourself and everyone else. I remember a coworker once said that he came to my cubicle to look for me, and so many times I wasn't there that he eventually ended up looking for me in random unused offices or in conference rooms. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I had a tendency of creating space between myself and the other workers. Basically, it became normal to not see me for a day. The work was still getting done, so no one could complain. Well, actually, no one on my team could complain. I had many people complain to me or to my boss, saying things like, people work hard for these offices, you can't just take them. So basically, we want to just seek out places that everyone else isn't. Are there unused conference rooms? Can we work in a lobby? Can we work in a different office? Maybe even a different floor than our team. And if anyone questions it, just say that you can't focus, there's too much noise, and then you need a quiet space. And again, don't change the quality of your work at all. Just create a little bit of distance. And this can also actually mean changing your work hours. What if instead of a 9 to 5, you change your hours to be 10 to 6? And that was actually maybe my biggest complaint about going into the office. You're chaining me to a desk for 8 hours for a workload that takes maybe half of that. And if your work takes the full 8 hours, then it's time to systematize, my friend. Because I can tell you with certainty that you are probably doing too much. And then even if you're able to become remote, you will still be miserable. Because the whole point of being remote is to give you your life back. But then if you're spending that entire time still working, then it doesn't even make a difference. We want the freedom to explore new things, but we can't if our entire life is focused on this workload. So it's time to slack it. And I've made a bunch of videos on my channel all about this in detail. But basically, find that core workload that you are hiring for, and then do just that and cut out the periphery, either delegating or denying everything else. And then once we have that core, protecting it and making sure that we're not being guilted into doing more. And a great way of doing this, and it sounds kind of counterintuitive, and I actually haven't talked about this on my channel, is to start a side project. What is something that you've always wanted to do since you were a kid? So starting a business, writing a book, making a YouTube channel. Pick a thing and then start to schedule time within your normal workday to work on this side project. But Wilson, I don't even have enough time to do just my job. How am I going to do a side project? Exactly. That's the point. This will force you to make time. It's weird, all the shortcuts that will reveal themselves once you have another focus and you're forced to reduce the amount of time that your job takes. There are probably 100 ways that you could save time on your workload, but you have no impetus to do it at the moment. Now again, this isn't going to compromise any of the quality of our core deliverable. It's just going to allow us to shrink the time that we spend on actually delivering it. And that's step 2. Rediscover a lost project. Now, when I was a freshman in college, I read the book 4-Hour Workweek. Actually, I still have it right here by my side at almost all times. And it's probably not that surprising that my life trajectory was changed massively after reading the book. According to Tim, I could find a boring 9-to-5, make it remote, and then hollow out the workload so that I have plenty of time to work on other interesting projects. Now, this book was written in 2007, and I read it in 2016. And little did I know that the perfect remote work revolution was right around the corner. Now, prior to 2020, remote work existed, but it was more rare. And then every company was forced to pull their head out of Windows XP and allow people to work from home. They quickly realized that almost all jobs can be done remotely. And I feel like people kind of forget that. I hear a lot of commentary that remote work doesn't exist anymore, which is assuming that it only became a thing during the pandemic. But remote work has always existed. In 2017, in the US, there were 34.7 million people who had the option of working from home. But only 7 million people actively worked remotely. And then the pandemic showed people that it was not only possible, but much better to work from home. So now, in 2025, there are more people working remotely than ever, with an estimated 36.2 million people working from home. And that's 14% of the adult working population. And that's step 3, to understand that it's not only possible, but probable. So while it is more normalized, it's also more competitive than ever because people realize how good it is. Some fun stats. People working remotely save an average of 55 minutes just on the commute alone. And then they save $12,000 over the course of the year on food, clothes, gas, and other things. And that's not even counting the value of your time that you are saving from not going into the office. And if you do a comparison of the hourly wage earned by people in the office and people working remotely, you start to see a gigantic divide. For instance, at my one job currently, I make the equivalent of $400 an hour because I've compressed the workload down so much. Okay, that's great, Wilson, but let's finish turning my job from in-person to remote. And the next step that we need to do is start tracking our metrics. It doesn't really matter what it is, but we need to start tracking a metric. It could be the number of things that we delivered in a week, or the amount of time it takes us to complete a certain task. Whatever it is, basically, we need tangible proof of efficiency when we're comparing in-person work and at-home work, which then we're going to use as leverage to negotiate us to be remote. Because we are going to approach our boss and get a certain amount of time, it doesn't matter how long it is, from working at home. Basically, we're going to have an event happen. It could be a pipe bursting and the plumber needs to come. It could be your dad going into the hospital and you want to visit him. But since we're such a good employee, we are going to continue to work, but we need to do it remotely. Whatever it is, we need to get a small win where we can work at least one day from home. And at this point, it's almost better not to ask if you can work from home, but tell your boss that you are going to work from home. And that's step 5, the remote test. And it's usually better to do this in the spur of the moment and not have it be scheduled ahead of time. Because if you go to your boss and say, please, sir, can I work 3 Mondays from now remote? It is a little too easy for them to say no. You're working remote, period, whether they like it or not. And then during this period where you're working from home, you are going to track your metrics closely. You're going to be easier to work with than ever. answering messages quickly, basically the dream employee. That being said, you'll also just be more productive due to the fact that you don't have a commute, you don't have to get ready for work. And the goal of this period is to have objective metrics that you work better from home than you do in the office. And then when we're back in the office, we are going to plant the seed that we are better working at home with our boss in an unofficial meeting, a one-on-one, or when you run into them by the water cooler. You know, the lack of a commute and office distractions let you complete your work so much faster, you were more productive, things like that. And don't let them see that this is an elaborate plot to eventually detach yourself and become remote, but instead, again, just planting the seed of the idea that you might be more effective working at home. And then keep on trucking for a week or so, maybe a month, and then ask for another period of working from home, but this time a little bit longer. And we keep doing this until eventually we can then ask for a hybrid arrangement and use all of the data that we collected to our advantage then. And if you keep your workload consistent, you're delivering exactly what they want and being predictable, then they shouldn't have a problem with it. And then eventually, once you have gathered enough experience and data points, then you can make a case to go fully remote. Now, does this work every time? Sadly, no. And let's say worst case, it doesn't. This still gives you a wealth of evidence, both in the skills that you've gotten and in the data that you collected, to then present a case to your next employer that you work better remotely than you do in the office. And that's the final step. Apply elsewhere. Now, hopefully, it won't come to this, but if you're not making any headway, then the best thing that you can do is focus your sights on a different employer. Now, remember, when we're applying for remote jobs, we are gunning for positions that are the most competitive out there. Everyone wants these, meaning that we're not going to be able to send 10 or 100 applications. We need to set our sights on 1,000 applications to actually land a remote position. And if you can't be bothered to do that, I might have something for you. I've been toying with the idea of starting a recruiting company for individuals instead of for companies, whereby we would start with a professional resume rewrite, LinkedIn optimization, and then have a team of appliers send out an absurd number of applications with tailored resume, cover letter, and then deliver interviews straight to your calendar with an informational document that has everything you need to crush the interview. If you're interested, check the link in the pinned comment. And as always, thanks for watching.